It is an honor to be with you all this morning. Good morning. For you all that know me and know me well, know that I rarely go any place without a cup of coffee, especially at this time of the day. My name is Tricia Pridemore, and I'm running for Congress here in the 11th District because I believe that it's time for us to bring a fresh perspective to Washington, D.C. See, I'm a small business owner, third generation small business owner, and it was so instilled in me the value of hard work, the value of getting an education, the value of being honest with people, the value of working incredibly hard to achieve a goal. My father, for some of you all that know me, know a little bit about my background, but for those that don't, I want to share a little bit of that with you today. My father was the first person in his family to ever graduate with a high school diploma. Now, I think that there's lots of people here in District 11 where that might also be the case. I was the first person in our family to get a four-year college degree. Again, under the knowledge that if I worked hard, got an education, that there is pretty much anything that I could accomplish in this country. See, we do live in the finest country that God ever created. And our best days can still be ahead of us. It's going to take an incredible amount of work. It's going to take an incredible amount of diligence. It's going to make sure that every single one of us who love this nation, who love free markets, who love our freedom, who love liberty, stand vigilant to make sure that our best days can still be ahead of us. My husband and I took an idea that we had, that we formulated on our driveway with some friends, and turned that over 9 years into a successful small business, into a successful software company. But we did it by bootstrapping. We did it by working hard. We did it by knowing that our best days could be ahead of us. We were blessed to be able to sell that company, and then I got very involved in my local community because I think that ultimately where we live is where we live, and it's where we can set the greatest example. It's where we can make the greatest amount of difference. So I got very involved with organizations like Must Ministries, and I was very glad a couple of months ago to see that Must was here and part of the Cherokee County Republican Party's mission. But it's those organizations where you're actually able to touch lives, because you have to be able to touch lives. You have to be able to make sure that your values and the things that you hold dear about this great country, that they move out and that they grow throughout that community. But Washington is making that incredibly, incredibly hard. Whether you're a small business owner, whether you work for a nonprofit, or whether you're a teacher in a classroom, you see time and time again where Washington regulations are coming down and they're pressing upon you an agenda that is simply not yours and not yours of your community as well. So I was recruited to go into state government and take these same conservative principles with a dedication for hard work, with a dedication for being honest, and with a strong dedication to reform, and reform to state agency. During the time that I was the leader of the Governor's Office of Workforce Development, we saw a complete overhaul of not only the agency, but all of the programs that touch that agency as well. When I first started with the state, we had a 10.1% unemployment rate, and when I left back in April, we had an 8.4% unemployment rate. I was part of the team that made that possible. My piece of that team was to pull people off unemployment. If you can get people off of the unemployment rolls and get them back into the workforce within the time that they're drawing unemployment benefits, you're not only able to dramatically impact their lives by giving them a job, but you're also giving them that sense of success that builds in to a better and better community. I'm running for Congress because I want to take that same hard work, that same dedication, all the way to Washington, D.C. Anybody who knows me and has worked in the trenches with me as a conservative activist can tell you, and I'm looking around the room and seeing people that we've marched on CNN with a megaphone, we've tea partied in Washington, D.C. before. But I lead with my values and I lead with my principles. As your congressman, I will work incredibly hard to make sure that you have proper representation in Washington. That you have somebody who's going to listen to you, who is going to work with you, who is going to work with the seniors, the veterans, which are the two groups that mean the most and that rely the most on a congressional office, to make sure that their voices are heard and that their needs are met. But at the end of the day, you, every business owner, and every worker in this district needs somebody in Washington who's going to give you a voice and who is going to fight for you. We simply have got to get control of the size of our federal government. We simply have got to be able to cut spending. Too often, we have too many politicians who talk about it, who talk about cutting spending, who talk about cutting government programs. I've done that work, and let me tell you something, folks, it ain't pretty. But it simply has to get done. People who understand our entitlement structure. Over 60% of our federal budget is made up of entitlement programs. Of that, 44% is Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. If we do not get a grasp on that spending and immediately look to lower the size of that impact on our lives, it is simply unsustainable. There is no way that we can continue to spend our future and our children's future. We simply do not have the money. I am married and live in Marietta. Spend a lot of time here in Cherokee County. Love it very, very much. And one of the things that I want to make sure that we do is, if I do become your next congressman, we're going to have a Cherokee office. This is an incredibly growing community with so much to offer. Your county really has so much going for it. The one thing, though, I'd like to see is I'd like to see greater economic development in this area. When you consider that in this county, that nearly 80% of this county commutes out to go to work every day. We need jobs here in this county. And those aren't government jobs. Those are private sector jobs. Wealth is created from that private sector, and opportunity is created from that private sector. But we need private sector jobs in this area to really be able to help this county grow and reach its full, glorious potential. So with that, I'm going to open up the floor for some questions. You all who know me know, I'd answer anything you got.
How would you create those jobs?
First and foremost, we need to be able to sustain the free market system and get government regulators off our backs. Whether it's the IRS, the Department of Labor, or the EPA, and I can give you multiple stories where we have people on the ground who are federal agents who are working on behalf of those agencies right now. They're stepping on small businesses, they're setting up rules and policies, they're on the floor. I don't know if you all have recognized this, but the Obama administration, they don't go to Congress to pass laws. They do it at the agency level. They get a bunch of agency bureaucrats from Washington who set up the rules and policies, and then they press it down on local businesses. We do get singled out, absolutely, and I believe that every red district in this country does. But that's first and foremost. We need to hold those agencies accountable. Congress needs to bring them in front of them and for hearings, and we need to stop this practice immediately. Yes, hi.
Representative Michael Caldwell over there has made a suggestion that we need to invite some of the gun manufacturing companies to come to Cherokee County because they're being treated badly up in New England where a lot of them are. And just tell them that's a very good suggestion to bring some free market jobs here. We like guns and we'd like to be making them.
Hear, hear. Why not make guns where we're buying guns? Absolutely. I'm a strong Second Amendment proponent. My husband is a competitive marksman. He shoots long-distance rifle and what's called three-gun, rifle, pistol, shotgun, all over the United States. And yes, we need more places to shoot those guns lawfully, and we need to be able to manufacture more of them right here in the 11th District. Thank you.
I am for governor.
We can start the draft petition anytime. Any other questions? Yes, hi.
I haven't heard anything about taxes. What is your position on taxes from the federal government?
Very good. I would like to see us move to a flatter tax, to a fairer tax system, absolutely. When you consider the fact that pretty much everybody in this room, it's nearly impossible for us to do our taxes anymore. We've got to hire outside help to be able to even understand our tax code and the red tape that goes along with it. We need lower taxes, especially out of the federal government, but most importantly, we need a simplified tax code. Let's start there. reform the IRS. Yes, hi.
All right. What are your thoughts on states' rights and nullification?
I am a strong proponent of states' rights. I believe that the 10th Amendment was designed to be able to give the states the leeway to be able to provide good government close to the people. As somebody who's worked in state government, I can tell you time and time again where this federal government eschews states' rights, especially red states. They look at us and turn the other way, or they provide greater regulations to make it harder on us. Ultimately, I will be a strong proponent for the states. I look across the country and see some of the fantastic conservative Republican governors that are out there that are asserting themselves, especially Governor Perry in Texas, to make sure that, that the rights of their states are upheld and that they're fighting with this federal administration. At the end of the day, this is really about fighting an ideology that just does not see America the way that we see it. It's about getting on the ground and talking with people and making sure that those people that believe like you believe, that they're involved and that they're active. I'll tell you all a brief story. A couple of weeks ago, I went to Congressman Tom Price's town hall meeting. And there were about 300 people there. It was very well attended. Lots of great audience interaction, and folks that even weren't his constituents showed up. People are tired of the way that this federal government is pressing themselves down on them. But throughout that whole discussion, there were a group of about 13 folks sitting over off to the side. Everything that was said, everything that was done was videoed. They're watching us. They absolutely are. Organizing for America is on the ground. Much in the same way that we were all caught off guard last year when we thought for sure that Barack Obama would be a one-term president, they're looking to do that exact same thing in Georgia this cycle. Everything we say, everything we do, they're looking at us. Let's work together to make sure that we can preserve these seats for conservative Republicans. And let's make sure that we can work this cycle to take back that Senate as well.
Tricia, I actually have a question. One of my pet peeves is when you look through legislation coming down from the Congress, where you see it appears on the surface to be one item, but when you dig into the bill, you all of a sudden find 15 or 20 different bills that have been added, and you have amendments that have been added that have nothing to do with the bill. And my question to you is, what would you do to help alleviate that process and get rid of it so that we, the people, can actually understand what it is our representatives in Congress are voting on and make it easier for us to get involved in the process?
Very good question. Obamacare is a great example. What did Pelosi tell us? That we'll figure it out after we've passed it. We'll read it after we've passed it. Yes. There are teams of people who write legislation, and at the end of the day, it has absolutely nothing to do with the germaneness of the topic of which it was introduced. I believe that legislation should be on its subject matter, should be relative to that code section and that code section alone. I think that the funny and silly games that we see happening in the legislative process, they're ultimately a grand detriment to our democracy, and ultimately a grand detriment to the rule of law. I'll work incredibly hard to make sure that I read every piece of legislation and explain to the best of our office's ability as to what its intent is and what it's going to do. But at the end of the day, laws should be written expressly for the purposes of which they're proposed. Yes. Hi, Miss Hat Lady. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? What is it that we can possibly do to stop our government from wasting money on investigating why monkeys throw their feces?
So, Judy, your question is how to limit the funding of research projects, and I think first and foremost we need to start with a review of the budget, and we need a balanced budget. I will fully support a balanced budget amendment. I think that it's critical that we look at every single dollar that's going out of the federal government and look for ways to be able to cut it. If it is not in the best interest of how a government needs to perform and needs to run itself, why fund it? Why pay for it? At the end of the day, those of us who are working, those of us that are working to provide for our families, we simply cannot afford to be spending money that we don't have, and I agree. Well, I so much appreciate your time. I'm going to ask y'all to do me a favor. If you've got one of these, if you like what I've had to say, and if you want to support our candidacy, look us up. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We're an incredibly engaged campaign. And from somebody who has worked in the trenches as a grassroots volunteer, I know that every single one of you make the difference. Please remember our campaign in your prayers, and if you ever have any questions, call me on my cell phone, 404-358-2051. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful Saturday. God bless you.